What's up, guys? Welcome back to Revelation 11:27, where we speak the truth and nothing but the truth. I hope you guys are doing amazing. As you can hear, those are Luke. Why did I say his name like that? Those are Lucas's little paws. Let's see what the energy is. Let's just jump right straight to it. Okay. Oh. So, someone here is in their destined path. You have finally arrived. Whatever it is that you've been doing, it's guided you to this very moment in time. Right? You've made a change. There's been a lot of progress in your life lately. And luck is on your side. Maybe you've had to control. I mean, control certain behaviors that you've allowed in the past, and maybe those behaviors were never taking you to the wheel of fortune, right? Those behaviors were keeping you stuck in a karmic cycle. But you making that change, making that compromise with yourself, with God, with the universe, has brought in the balance that you need in your life. There was a lot of confusion, right, in the air. Maybe you weren't sure of what to do. You weren't sure of where to go, who to speak to, who to get close to, because there was so much confusion in the air. But there was no way you could have balance in your life with all that confusion, right? So many choices. You were over analyzing a situation, and maybe you were procrastinating on taking certain steps because of, come on, how could you not when there's so many choices presented in front of you? How could you not when there's so much confusion like this? You don't know how much, which cup to take, because everyone's offering you something. And maybe you've had some time to self-reflect, right, with this renewal card here. You've had to evaluate a situation. And the only way you could have done that was to sit back and reflect. Maybe something that you weren't used to doing before, because you were just running on autopilot. You were just waking up, going to work, coming back, dealing with the same thing that wasn't allowing you to see past all that confusion. And that brought in that renewal, right? You sitting back and you reflecting and you analyzing whatever situation was making you feel confused, whatever situation was keeping you in a fog mentality, has allowed for the sun to come in, has allowed for you to recognize something that maybe you were not seeing because you were confused, right? And the fact that you did that has allowed you to see a different perspective. Maybe it has allowed you to see someone else differently. Maybe it has allowed you to see someone that maybe you were judging differently. But you taking time back, Maybe you got to know that person a little bit more, and you were able to see them for truly who they are. You were able to see their true authentic self. And that just cleared off any confusion that you may have had. And that is amazing. We should never be judging anyone. Especially judging anyone based on someone else's judgment on that person. We should never judge anyone, period. Not even God judges anyone. God allows people to even go on the wrong path. He's not going to judge you. No. He's going to allow for you to go on that path because you know what you're doing. You know that what you're doing is wrong. You know that you judging someone is wrong. You know that you trying to make someone the evil person, even though they're not, that is wrong. And what happens? God allows you to do that. God will allow you to knock yourself out because you knew better and you didn't do better. You continued to defame someone else's character without you even knowing them. You continued to harass someone that did not deserve it. And that is what God will do. Okay, you didn't want to take the path I have for you. You wanted to judge someone knowing that you're wrong. Now look, suffer the consequences. Because you knew exactly what you were doing. And we can blame it on religion. We can blame it on, oh, but it was her, there's no one to blame here but you. Because you used your own free will to harass someone else, to abuse someone else, physically, verbally, online, in person. But look, as long as we learn from our from our mistakes, that is how you can redeem yourself. You accepting how you were wrong in a situation, it takes a lot of strength to do that. It takes a lot of strength to recognize what you've been doing wrong. And it takes even more strength to apologize to the person. Confirmation with Lucas. Sneezy. Bless you, baby. It takes even more strength to apologize to that person who you were trying to bring down, who you were trying to destroy. And let me tell you something. No matter if you're Christian, Catholic, Jewish, whatever religion you are, you will never destroy a person who is on their path. Like me. But this is telling me that after a lot of confusion. And after redeeming yourself, after accepting your wrongdoings, after accepting that maybe, you were judging the wrong person, after that, you've allowed for that renewal to come in. Reflecting is part of doing the work. And not only doing the work, but when you do the work, you're able to see other perspectives, not foggy perspectives. And I do have to give it to you, you are strong, because it takes a lot to overcome certain beliefs, right, that were passed down to you by your family members, by religion, without you even knowing. It takes a lot to recognize that, and it takes a lot to see someone who maybe you were demonizing or you had the wrong image of your head about, to see them for truly who they are. It takes a lot to do that. And the fact that you've recognized that, gotta give it to you. That is amazing. That is beautiful. That is growth. And not only that, but that has allowed you to jump back into your wheel of fortune, jump back into your path after maybe some time of you deviating from it. By the way, I don't know who I'm talking to, but take it as it resonates, Everything I say is for a reason. We have the Queen of Water here. I'm speaking to a feminine energy. A feminine energy who's accepted what she's done, who's accepted that her perspective on someone else were completely wrong. And that is an initiation, right? It's your initiation to understanding what God really is. It is an initiation of you actually connecting to your emotions. The water has everything to do with the emotions. You're someone who's loving, who's giving. Maybe you weren't loving and giving to someone based on all of these confusion, right? Based on all the lies that were created about this person, based on your distorted way of thinking. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm saying that because that's just the way I speak. Clear and concise. You were not trying to hear the other person. You were not trying to understand the other person. You just looked at them and you judged them. And you went based on what your past beliefs was, right? Based on what seeds your family had planted on you since you were younger. And you just went for it without caring about the other person's feelings, about the other person's emotions, right? That's stubborn. That's stubbornness. That's arrogance. That's ignorance. When you don't want to hear nothing else but your own distorted thoughts. Yeah. And when you don't want to hear other people, when you don't want to look at other people for truly who they are, and you just think that your way of thinking is the correct way of thinking, and there's nothing else anyone can tell you to change your mind, that brings a lot of disturbance in your life, right? It brings a lot of irritation. It brings a lot of sicknesses, diseases. Because remember, diseases and sicknesses start in the emotional body. Hate, anger, jealousy, all that causes cancer, depression, anxiety. Accidents, supernatural events. And it's crazy to me that in a lot of the times, in a lot of these situations, the people that are so stubborn because they think their way of thinking is the correct way of thinking are the same people that go to church and think they're connecting with God. I've said this before. The only way to connect to God is by yourself. And a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people can't even sit by themselves for like 5 minutes. Why? Because disturbance comes in, right? Everything bad they've ever done, everything evil they've ever done starts to eat up their mind. And they can't focus, and they can't meditate, and they can connect, and they can't decalcify their pineal gland, which will make them unable to connect to God. But that's just what happens, right? When you just don't want to listen to anything, when you don't want to learn new things, and you just think that you just are going to keep going through life. Tricking people. Tricking yourself, really. Because look, at the end of the day, you're the one that has to recognize your own mistakes. What you've done wrong, who you've hurt in the past, so you can be able to have a renewal without you seeing that, without you accepting it. There's no way you will ever feel the sun. What else do we gotta know about this spirit? We got family. Maybe all these thoughts about this person, the way you were treating a specific individual, were based on what your family was telling you, or based on what your family was chit-chatting about. Maybe you believed what your own mother told you about a specific person because you thought your mother was wise. And just because you're old does not mean that you're wise. Just because you're old does not mean that you've learned from your mistakes. All this hate, all this negativity, all this toxicity were making you chase something, right? What were they making you chase? Money, self gratification, to be seen a certain way in public, to be seen like you won something. Or no, the only thing you won in your life for thinking that way and for not accepting how you've been treating an innocent person, or how you've been treating a person that you judged without even getting to know them, was just silence. Silence in your life. Lack of love. No words, right? Because how can you have words, right, when you created this false persona about someone who is completely the opposite of that? Yikes. And maybe now has you thinking, right? Has you thinking about that person. Could be a friendship. It could be a relationship. And why does it have you thinking? Because you were wrong about that person. Maybe you shared some moments with that person recently. And now you miss them. Now you want to hang out with them again. Because after spending some time, after getting to know that person, you know how magnetic their energy is. And why is it magnetic? Because it's authentic. But now, you're following your intuition, right? You're allowing yourself to feel. You're opening your heart. Because when you just think with your head all the time, you skip so much. When you don't have your heart chakra opened, there's no way you can feel. And to feel love in your heart is the most important thing in this world. Without love, there is nothing. Love is not a religion. Love is not what I can do for you. Love is not what I can buy you. Love is felt. And that feeling has to be genuine and authentic for it to truly be felt. I'm gonna be making this up. Ace of Cups. The biggest cup on the tarot deck. Love, compassion, overwhelming feeling. You recognizing that is amazing, right? We all make mistakes. Doesn't matter your age. You know what matters? Is what you do with that information moving forward. It's how you rectify your mistakes. We got the Six of Cups here. Maybe you feel like being generous to that person who you judged so wrongly. Yeah, that is justice. I just hope that you're not just apologizing to this person because you're facing legal consequences. Because you're in loss, because you're in regret, because you're disappointed about the lack around you, the lack of love, the lack of money, the lack of happiness. I just hope that apology is genuine. Not just because you want to get out of a situation that you're in. Let's just get one of these. Oh, okay. Okay. It says, bring balance. Bring balance. Balance, bring balance, right? Come on. You're putting too much energy into something. Creating lack. We just talked about this. Somewhere else. Take action now to correct the situation. And that action could be a text, an apology. Like how we were just talking about. Or risk further imbalance, which could lead to undesired results. There you go, right? You taking this action will bring in the renewal that you need. Will bring in that grace from God. So you could be able to move on with your life. So you could be able to feel the sun. Right? Because if you don't, as much as you want to think that you're this person that doesn't need to apologize, that doesn't need to rectify everything, then you will not feel the sun. I mean, you just, you know? Feel God's judgment. And like I said, if this is not you, you should not be taking it to heart, right? If it is you, I want you to know that I value people's integrity. I value people when they have done something wrong and they fix it. And not only me, but I'm sure whoever it is that this was done to will also appreciate that, right? I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day.